So great first question. Again, I think lots of people are going to relate to. This person says, I'm in my 40s and I find dating hard in a competitive online environment. How do I stand out? Now, first of all, I want you to remember, as I've been saying quite a few times so far this evening, remember you really are unique. You are your own person. And if people aren't understanding that uniqueness at the moment, it's not a failing on your part, but it's a signal for you to work on how you really communicate that. So let's start to look to begin with at your photos, your profile and your messages. We really want you to use all of these tools to demonstrate your unique qualities, whether that is having a good selection of images. I would recommend having at least 4 images on your online dating profile so people get a good insight into who you are. Of course, really write your profile and also be cautious when you're writing your profile. Again, we want to use those conversation and communication tools we looked at earlier on in the session for how to write your profile as well. We want to avoid using generic and cliched statements like, I like going out and I like staying in, or I like travel, because that can end up making us seem just like everybody else. Instead, when you're writing your profile, write it kind of as you would speak to another person and make it really specific. Tell people where you love to travel, where you like going out, what your favourite show on Netflix is, because I don't want you to be too concerned about putting people off. Instead, I think it's better for you to be a little bit Marmite and create a profile that's more original and more unique, that's going to help you to stand out. Finally, always remember just to stay proactive as well. If you stay proactive and you're able to send plenty of messages out to people, you will find matches online. So don't psych yourself too early on by thinking it's a really competitive environment. Instead, value what you bring to the table and cultivate a really unique profile. Okay, next question. Do you advise to have a solid and strong dating experience before committing to a long-term relationship? So a lot of the time, I know from my experience of a dating coach, people can be concerned about not having enough experience before embarking on a relationship, or they can worry that they don't have enough experience and that topic is going to come up in conversation and feel a little bit awkward to them. Now, to begin with, remember that a great relationship isn't built on how much experience you've had, how many dates you've gone on. It's all about the relationship between the two people. So that could be you using some of the conversation tools that we've just discussed to really build that unique bond. If you do have that unique bond and you have that point of connection, then another person shouldn't really be concerned or preoccupied about your pre-existing relationships or lack thereof. Because if someone really connects to you and they enjoy your company as a human being, then they're going to be interested and excited to pursue that more. And for yourself, whilst it's good to have experiences to get clarity about what you want, sometimes you might just find that you connect with a person on a fantastic level, and in which case I would highly recommend that you just pursue that relationship and enjoy experiencing it. So what do you do if the person says they are nervous about a video date? So video dates have become the form of dating that we're doing in 2020 due to lockdown. And I can understand why someone may feel a little bit nervous about having a video date with you, because video dates, they are a little bit awkward. They can make someone feel like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to go on camera. However, what's really important for you is that you want to look out for people that are willing to build that connection with you. So if someone is never going to do a video or a phone call with you, again, that might be showing to you that this person isn't yet open enough or able to be vulnerable enough that they're able to build that intimate, connected relationship that you want. So you do want someone who is willing and able to hop on a video call with you. However, if that person isn't comfortable to do that video call right now, before we put too much pressure around that, there are a few other things you can try. First of all, you could try an old school phone call. Sometimes just not having to do the video thing can make everybody feel a bit more comfortable. Or if you're communicating through a messenger service like WhatsApp, you can maybe start by exchanging a few voice notes, just so you can get used to hearing each other's voice. Sometimes you can take these baby steps and also Just like I mentioned earlier, get more comfortable with sharing information about yourself to gradually build a person's trust and build up towards the video date. And just be a little bit cautious that if video dates and phone calls and voice messages are a non-starter and this person is showing a lot of unwillingness to take the next step forward, again, that could be much less of a reflection of you and much more of a reflection about how open they are to the dating process as a whole. Okay, so next question, which is all about messaging. What are some good tips for messaging between dates, especially the early ones? So when you first match with somebody online, it can feel like there's a lot of pressure for you to sustain and keep the conversation going. Never is this more true than during a time of lockdown where we may not actually know when we can next meet the other person in person. And suddenly you might think, oh no, how do I keep the spark alive? How do I keep this person interested in me over what could be quite a long period of time? So to go back to what I said earlier, the first thing you've got to remember is that really this is a two-way street. This isn't just about all the pressure being on you to keep that conversation alive. Instead, remember, it's you have to do your part, but the other person also has to be making a reciprocal effort to message you back as well. Now, also, when it comes to messaging people, that conversation doesn't have to be continuous. In fact, if you've only so far chatted to a person online, it can be pretty difficult to suddenly have, a conversation that goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So don't feel pressured to message all day, every day. And don't worry that by not messaging all day, every day, that this other person is going to lose interest in you. Sometimes actually messaging slightly less often, but focusing on having high quality messages is going to be more effective. So rather than having a daily, how's your lockdown going, or hey, how are you? Instead, it might be better to message a couple of times a week, but to share something that's more relevant and more important to you. Whether that's a movie that you've just watched that you really love, a picture of something interesting that you're doing, a short voice note so that they can hear your voice. I would go for intermittent contact, yet impactful contact. So that every time that person looks at their phone and they see a message from you, they get a like, ooh, of excitement, rather than you feel that grind and that pressure to maintain lots of conversation every single day. Okay, so the next question. Oh, this person's addressed me by name, thank you. It says, hi Hayley, how can we still try to create chemistry and attraction on a date, given that we all have to physically keep our distance from each other at the moment? This is a really great question, and I'm pleased that you're still being proactive and going out there on your dates. So even though we have to, of course, observe social distancing and keep a 2-meter distance from people that we're going on dates with, that doesn't remove all of our tools from communicating attraction to a person. First of all, we have our body language. So smiling, making eye contact, being comfortable with pauses, moving like and saying, oh, I would 100% hug you now if I was allowed, but I'm just going to do this instead. All of that can really communicate our attraction to a person. We also have, as I've just demonstrated, all of the language and all of the words that we can use to express verbal compliments. Now, in order to express a genuine verbal compliment, we want to probably move away from just saying that a person looks nice. We want to make that compliment much more sincere. So if we go back to what we spoke about earlier on in this session, we really want to go through that process of asking really high quality questions, really listening to how a person answers them. And when a person does say something that we like and that resonates with us and that matches up with the kind of qualities we're looking out for in a partner, we want to acknowledge that in the conversation. A great way to do this that also creates impact is you can say to a person, oh, I'm just going to have to stop you there. I just had to notice, I really love how spontaneous you are. Or I really like how methodical you are, or I really like how responsible you are. I find that quality really attractive. And then you can say, anyway, carry on. Or, I would pay you a cheekier compliment now, or I'd definitely be trying to give you a hug if I was allowed. So you can express your desire for a bit more physical contact. And you can also use this as a great opportunity to have that higher quality conversation and to really acknowledge to a person verbally when they've demonstrated a personal quality that's really attractive to you. And sometimes focusing on a person's personal qualities as opposed to just their physical appearance or physical touch, first of all, it's safer, it's more modern, and it can actually make a person feel more valued and can create flirtation. So flirtation isn't over, we're just going to have to slightly change how you express that. Okay, next question. How can you read the signs that someone is really not that into you? Okay, so we did look at this question earlier, but just to give a bit of a recap around that. So sometimes when we are thinking about, is a person that into us, when we start to question, is this person that into me or not? Often what that is coming from really is a space where we don't really feel 100% comfortable with being in the unknown. It's usually when we've just started the process of getting to know a person and we're thinking like, okay, so they asked me out for dinner, they did 2 video calls with me last week, what does this all mean? It's like we're trying to read the signals because we're trying early on to establish what kind of a relationship this is going to be. And a lot of the time, if you're finding yourself really analysing everything, if you're a chronic overanalyzer, sometimes this can be a signal to you to actually allow yourself to go with the flow more and just accept that we can't know everything about another person immediately. We simply can't know everything about someone straight away. So instead of that, what can happen is we want to allow ourselves the possibility to get to know someone over a period of time by which things will become clearer. That being said, if someone is doing some obvious no-nos, I guess, of not being very consistent, of sending you 20 messages one day and then nothing for a week, is being very keen on speaking to you this evening, then again, you don't hear from them for a while, that inconsistency and that confusion is probably some of the surest signs that someone might not be that they're not that into you, but that instead they might not be able to have that level of relationship that you want. So next question, how can I improve the first message to get a response? So we want to avoid here really some of the killers of great first messages. So some things that are going to really ding your chances of getting a response to your message is when you have a very low investment first message that you're sending out to people. That low investment first message is anything really that you could just send to anyone or that sounds a bit like a cut and paste. Now, that could be a really obvious cut and paste, like those annoying messages that say, you know, you've won the lottery, I'm messaging you. We don't want to say that. Or it can also be those really throwaway, short, small talk style comments that you can say to someone like, hey, how are you? Hey, babe. Hey, how's your night going? Again, these messages will look very similar probably to a few other messages that person's received. And they're difficult questions to answer because they're so broad and so big. They're too generic. We also want to really avoid sending messages that are too long and too detailed. Sometimes if a person just sees a really big block of text, it can be a little bit intimidating and feel like too much too early on. Likewise, if you go straight into asking somebody out on a date, they can feel like you're asking them out on a date without them really investing enough in the conversation to feel that they have justified you asking them out. And what you really want to communicate throughout your messages is that you are discerning. It's not that you're just looking to go on a date with just anyone, but you're looking out for particular qualities in a person that you really like and that you really enjoy. Because of this, it's always better to pick up on a specific detail in their profile, and you can simply phrase it to say something like, I like how you're into X, could I convince you to try Y? Or I like that you're into X, I don't suppose that you also like Y. So remember, a great first message isn't about you saying something that's really incredible or super witty or super funny. It can be simply a case of you showing that you've taken the time and interest to read a person's profile properly, that you've crafted a message that compliments them on something that they've actually done, and of course that you've shared information about yourself as well to give them something to respond to. Okay, next next question here. How do I keep it flirty but not creepy? Not that anyone has been creeped out, but actually my problem is that I don't keep it flirty enough. Any tips? So this is a really good question, actually something that I'd find a lot of people might struggle with and have a little problem. I think particularly in our modern day era, it can be very difficult to know how to walk the line between showing and expressing enough interest so that the other person knows and understands that you like them without overstepping the mark and being creepy. How we get this balance right is, I think, a really good way to go about it is to move the focus of your compliments and your flirtation away from the physical and onto the personal, onto someone's qualities and how they interact with you. This is also much more meaningful to a person. If you say, oh, I like your pictures, or you've got a nice smile or nice eyes, that's, could be quite nice for a person to hear, but it also could be quite generic and quite like what a lot of other people might have complimented them on. And really, I want you to help you to stand out, to be truly unique. So the best compliments we can pay to a person are about how they express themselves and how they show up as a personality. This, of course, requires you to do what we mentioned earlier on in the session, which is to get really good at actively listening or reading between the lines and asking yourself, what's this person showing me about who they are through how they express themselves, whether that's in a message or in how they talk to us on a date. If you can, instead of saying you've got nice eyes, say, I really like how you are really open, I really like how you're already cracking jokes, I like how you're already teasing me, I like how serious you are, I like how to the point you are. When we say I like and we make it about something that a person is doing, how they're behaving, it's immediately going to come across as nicely flirtatious because it's really well focused on them. However, it's not going to ever cross that line of being creepy because we're going to keep it focused on their personal qualities rather than their physical attributes. So making a compliment about that is not only a great way to not be creepy, it's a great way to express your interest and also to be unique and really stand out from the other people that have messaged them. Okay, so next question, and I know that this is going to be coming up a lot for people. If someone is giving non-detailed answers, one-worders, how do we encourage more detailed answers to get things going again? Now, I have to say, I have read quite a few people's online dating messages, and nothing is more frustrating than when you write something, a really good high-quality statement about yourself, and it gets met with a lol or a smiley face in response. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is before you immediately jump to thinking, how can I make this person open up more, or how can I help them out here? I want you to first remember your own personal standards. And I probably said it about 10 times during this coaching session, but I'm going to say it again. You really need and want someone who is as invested in the whole online dating process and in the process of building a committed relationship as you are. So if someone isn't really showing that willingness in their responses, if they're maybe writing, dare I say it, slightly lazy replies back to you, they may not meet your standards of someone who's really engaged. You can, in order to encourage them to open up a little bit more, you can, of course, say a little playful response, like, do you always write in emojis with a wink? You can say you are king or queen of one-word answers, wink. So you could say, what's something that I wouldn't have been able to guess about you from this last message? So you can, in a teasing and playful way, kind of say to them, hint, hint, can you say a little bit more? But remember, whilst you can encourage someone to do that by both sharing lots of high quality information about yourself, by asking them interesting questions, and by maybe giving them a little playful tease if they're not being that open towards you, you also have to rely on them as an individual, making just as much effort to really connect and to get to know you as well. So I don't believe how fast that's gone. I want to say thank you to everybody who sent their questions in, but we are running out of time for questions today. We've received loads and loads of questions, and I'm sorry if we didn't get the chance to get round to answering your specific questions. All I can say is that we do read every single question that gets sent in, and we do pay attention to the questions that are most important to people. So that may well, your question that you sent in may well become a topic for a future live that we do. In the meantime, if you would love to watch this live coaching session again, if I was saying lots of information, you're like, I need to write that down, then a video replay of this session is going to be available as part of the Match community. So if you haven't already, join the Match community and you would love to, first of all, meet more single people, and secondly, to test out some of the techniques that we've learned during this session, then you just need to click on the link that follows this live and get on board with joining us at Match. And hopefully we will be back again with another session very, very soon. But before I leave you, I've got exciting to say we have a couple of winners to announce. So the winner who has won a 6-month subscription to Match, woohoo, loads of opportunity to write some really great first messages, I'm relying on you for this, is Richard. So congratulations, Richard, you have won 6 months membership with Match. And the person who has won my online coaching program, Unite, is Lav, L-A-V. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. So we will be in touch if you have been one of our prize winners with how to get you started with giving you your prizes very, very soon. And if you've joined us tonight for this coaching session, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us during lockdown. I hope you found this useful. Hope you're going to become an even more powerful communicator and really get those amazing dates that you want to start something real. And hopefully we'll be back again very soon with another coaching session.